Hey guys, how's it going? Preparing here. So today I want to talk to you guys about some of the changes that have happened in the alpha version of the game. The game is coming out in less than 3 days from when I make this video. Open beta is coming out in 3 days. And I know it's very important to some of you guys to make the appropriate changes to your builds, to your strategies, to your skill choices, and all the rest, so you can be, kind of ready to go when open beta is released. Now, before I get started with these specific changes, I just want you guys to keep a few things in mind. The mobs, because they are higher level, the first maps that you do are going to be level 66, they're going to do a lot more damage than you would expect. Typically, when you play the game right now, you kind of get in the 60s, you do the level 60 maps, which are very easy, and you do them so long, and you build up a base of maps. And once you've built up that base, your character is well geared. It's in the high 70s. You have like an HP pool of 4K, 5K, 6K, and then you very cautiously start doing maps that are 64 and above. Because in this version of the game, you start with the 66 maps, the mobs are going to hit a lot harder. There's much more challenging mobs. There's mobs that you can't avoid that are really fast. So on top of that, the mobs sometimes have insane resistances, insane life pools. Like you guys know, in the closed beta version of the game, the bears have like one of the highest life, and in alpha, the bears have like some of the lowest life. Everything just scales like crazy. And because of that, because of a few changes, which I'll start to show you guys here, with Quicksilver Flask, which replaced Phase Run, with Granite Flask becoming 4K armor, you kind of need that extra defense, because the Granite Flask is not going to save you, your higher HP pool is not going to save you, but you also need reasonable kill speed, because these mobs have so much more life, but you need the flask charges. You need to be able to use your granites, you need to be able to use your Quicksilvers to move around the map, to dodge, whatever. So the game pretty much stretches both boundaries. You need to have more damage, you need to have more survivability than you do right now, and it can be very difficult to achieve that, so you have to kind of really fine-tune into what's going on. Now, before I get started with the skill gems, I just want to show you guys a few quick things. Again, this is the alpha, so many things might change. There's no real way to tell, but you guys can see that Orb of Alchemy is on the vendor here. The price has changed recently, so it may not exactly be that, but it shows the intention that the developers are trying to make Orb of Alchemies more available, because they took away the matching rare recipe. The matching rare recipe rewards 1 Orb of Chance, and if you want, you can take those Orbs of Chances, make them into a Scouring, and if you want, you can take your 8 Orbs of Chance, which are now 2 Scourings, and you can buy an Orb of Regret. You can take that Orb of Regret and turn it into an Alchemy. So what that means is, if you're actually just farming mobs in the game, you can get Orbs of Alchemy much more often, but if you're having to use the Regrets because you made mistakes in the build of your character, you're going to be losing a lot of value, a lot of currency, just to respec few points. When it comes to the passive skill tree, there are 21 more skill points outside of leveling that you can obtain through quests, but that includes killing all the bandits each time, which you probably will not do. But because there are only 3 difficulties, if you do help the bandits, you'll only have a plus 18. And because the zones are higher level, you can kind of build a spec around 100 skill points pretty easily, in my opinion. There are a few things that have changed on the skill tree, notably the totem passive. You can't deal damage to skill yourself, but as I've explained in one of my other videos, you can do so with pets, traps, and mines, so you can kind of circumvent that a little bit. There's the recently named passive, which applies your life regeneration to your energy shield, so you can do those chaos damage maps a little bit more easily. And they changed chaos inoculation, so you do take the chaos damage, but you take it on your energy shield. And also the chaos inoculation has grown a tumor. This is the chaos inoculation tumor, to pretty much force you to invest a few more points in going full ES. Aside from that, I haven't noticed any changes that are too big on the skill tree, but because the gameplay changes are so vast, that will in turn change the way people design their skill tree. Now, when it comes to gems, which is the bulk of the changes in my opinion, keep in mind this is alpha, so these are very easy changes for them to make. If they feel they might adjust something last minute, they might do that. They might just scrap a lot of these, I have no idea. But again, you can kind of get an idea of what they would like to change in the game. So I'll begin with some of the skills that I'm using. The first one that did change is Anger. You can see that Anger is 39 to 65 at level 17, and it costs a weird amount of mana if you compare it to the version that is on closed beta. So Anger at the early levels costs more mana. I believe it costs 50, and I believe it gains 6 mana per level as opposed to 5, and as opposed to starting from 40 if I remember correctly. So it does cost more mana to use Anger. It doesn't do any more damage until about level 14 or so. But as you know, as some of you know at least, Anger as well as Wrath, when they hit level 15, they diminish significantly, and some people don't even level them past that point. That part has changed. Anger in this particular case, when it did level to 15, 16, 17, and onward, it actually continued scaling up. So Anger and Wrath really reward the players that end up leveling, the skill all the way up. So it's a very, very cool aura in that direction. So Wrath is the same, 7 to 117. Those values are not even seen on the closed beta at any level of the skill. Clarity was nerfed a little bit. Level 17 is 17.3 mana regeneration. I've tried to pinpoint the exact difference, but I haven't really had the time to go and get it all down, but it looks to be like a 10 to 20% nerf on Clarity. And the big one was Discipline. Discipline, while costing the same amount of mana, gives you about half, a little bit less than half in the amount of energy shield that it used to, which is a good change because Discipline was really overpowered for any character that didn't have blood magic, essentially. So it's a good change there. Spell Totem, it has a cast speed reduction penalty, 30%, as opposed to nothing before. Honestly, this is a very, very small nerf, considering that you're going to get better gear, that it's very easy to overcome a 30% cast speed nerf. You should be using Spell Totem nonetheless on practically any character that has something cool to do. So in my case, I use faster casting, Spell Totem, and Summon Skeletons. And I use this instead of a Decoy Totem, which you'll see why shortly. Auras like Hatred weren't changed, but auras like Grace were. The mana cost of Grace was upped, though the value was not, making Grace one of the most powerful auras in the game. Not too much has changed with the skill gems, at least the ones that I use on my character. Life Leech was buffed. I believe Life on Hit was buffed as well. Very minor stuff though, nothing too big. The big ones we'll get started with here. Chain. So Chain in the closed beta version of the game does 40% less damage instead of 50% less damage. Okay, so you do half of your damage instead of 60%, which is, essentially if you had the old one, you'd have a 20% damage boost, and it only chains 2 times rather than 3. So if you do the math, if you do all of that, you do like 62% or something like that of your original damage. But this is not particularly true because of the way certain abilities stack. So for instance, if you have a high crit chance or if you have a high shock chance, the added shock damage from the fact that you'd potentially shock the targets more is also not included in this equation. So it's kind of more of an estimate, but in my estimate, the amount of damage that you'll be doing with the chain after this change is going to be roughly half. Okay, so if you have a reasonable crit chance, a reasonable shock chance, you're going to be doing about half damage with Chain. So Chain is really a special case. I don't think it's very powerful anymore. It's very good for classes that have high crit, but if you don't have high crit, honestly, there may be other choices out there. I have a couple of gems here just to remind me what was changed. I believe there's one gem that I don't have included here that is changed, which is Elemental Hit. Elemental Hit was nerfed. It's pretty significantly nerfed in the lower levels. I believe it starts, the gem is level 1, level 19, I believe, and in the higher levels it's not quite as much damage, though it still seems pretty overpowered in my opinion. So if you're planning on using Elemental Hit, you really shouldn't change your mind on that. Spark was changed from the fact that you can't shotgun targets in corners. I believe if one spark hits a target, forks, and it can't hit the same target back within 1 second. I think that's the change. So you can't, as in theory, you can't shotgun a target in like a corner or against a wall as easily as you were before, but not really a big deal there. Haste Aura was improved to give movement speed. You can kind of see, it's like, oh wait, the attack speed and cast speed were nerfed. Well, that's not necessarily true. This is only a level 10 gem. At lower levels, it's definitely way worse, but at higher levels, I predict the values will be roughly 7 movement speed, 14 cast speed, 14 attack speed. Considering the nerfs to a lot of the other auras, it kind of makes haste a relatively good option. Additional accuracy was buffed like crazy. This gem is only level 10 and it gives 450 accuracy. This amount of accuracy is practically unseen in the open beta version of the game, which is pretty much a very good thing. This makes additional accuracy one of the best support gems in the game, in my opinion, especially for the strength built characters. Losing the ability to crit through Resolute Technique, in my opinion, is not worth it with a ton of abilities. With some, it's worth it if you're using like Ground Slime, if you're using like Sweep and you don't want to die, I get it. But otherwise, having the ability to crit is very, very good in this game. And although some classes aren't able to get a lot of the hit talents, you are able to get a gem like this, which has a 0 mana cost multiplier. So very pleased with this change. I think this is going to be one of the best gems for a lot of character builds. So I have Decoy Totem. You can see that this is a quality Decoy Totem. I bumped it with GCPs just so I can see how it scales. I believe it's roughly 2 increased totem life per level. Per quality point, and per level it's roughly that as well. But I mean, the Decoy Totem on life that I have is like 138 or something increased totem life. This is 33. Coupled with the fact that the totems have less life in general, the Decoy Totem tends to get completely obliterated. When I was using Decoy Totem on my Shadow, the amount of time that it took to cast the Decoy Totem was about half the time that it managed to stay alive. So Decoy Totem still has some use, great use in groups, but you know, nowhere near what you may expect in the closed beta version of the game. You have Fork. Fork, just a small change. It went from 20 less projectile damage to 30 less projectile damage. So you're doing, you know, maybe like 8% less damage. Kind of a big deal, because Fork wasn't really that good of a gem to begin with, but because they nerfed Chain so severely, I think it was more appropriate to nerf Fork a little bit as well, just because it is quite powerful with certain other skills. Discipline, I just want to show you guys a level 1 version. Level 1 Discipline makes it really hard for the hybrid characters when they are in the mid-30s. In the mid-30s, the hybrid characters really struggle, and if you're planning a build on having Discipline giving you a crap load of energy shield right when you hit like 31, don't count on it. 120 mana for 60 base energy shield is not a very good boost. So keep that in mind. Going hybrid in the 30s, you're going to have a very rough time. Range Attack Totem was essentially buffed because it used to be 50% reduced attack speed and is now 30% reduced attack speed. So in my opinion, this is pretty good because Range Attack Totem was largely only used with Chain Lightning Arrow, which was ridiculously OP. So with this change, maybe there's going to be some more, greater variety of skills used with it. Life Gain on Hit, like I said, Life Leech was buffed. Life Gain on Hit was also buffed, so pretty good stuff there. They added Punishment to the game. Punishment is a curse that acts like Thorns. It acts like Iron Maiden from Diablo 2. But as you can see, the values are not so good. Again, this may actually be one of the most overpowered curses in the game. I don't know. I didn't really play around with this too much, but you know, feel free when open beta is released. Rain of Arrows. I don't believe this has changed much. I think this used to be 70% damage effectiveness and is now 75%, and also the projectile speed, so the time for when you shot the arrows to when they landed and hit the targets, that time was significantly reduced. I used Rain of Arrows through normal on my ranger because it is the first quest reward. You no longer get Lightning Arrow right when you kill Hillock, you get Rain of Arrows, so I just decided to use it, and I was able to use the ability all through normal without much effect from other skill gems. So I think it's a pretty good change. It makes the skill more or less viable. Again, I was using it in closed beta as well on a Witch with concentrated effect. It's a great effect. So I think this will be a pretty good bow skill. Speaking of bow skills, the last one on the table here is Lightning Arrow. Lightning Arrow was probably the most overpowered skill in the game, just as I mentioned, largely because of the fact that coupled with Chain, it's so powerful. So Lightning Arrow, the damage effectiveness from 100 has gone to 70, and I believe the additional targets that it can hit does never exceed 3. So 3 is the max, and I don't believe it has any chance to shock the target just through the ability itself. You can see that it has increased shock duration from the quality bonus, but I don't think there ever is a bonus chance to shock with Lightning Arrow, resulting in some abuse with Resolute Technique. So the lightning arrow build is going to be a lot harder to get off the ground, but the good news is you don't have to use lightning arrow as pretty much the only bow skill aside from maybe split arrow, but even that's pretty nerfed with a chain difference. So those are some of the big changes that I've noticed. I hope you guys take this stuff and consider it when working with your builds. In the coming days, maybe I'll give you guys some advice, maybe give you guys some examples of some builds that I have been able to do, and maybe we'll figure out where all the characters are supposed to lie and meta. See you guys there.